The lights are down. It's 8 o'clock. I guess that means go. It's time to start. Okay. Well, it's been a long time since I've actually been on the stage just solo for a Beatles concert here at Dizzy's. And it started, I would say, almost 25 years ago, playing when Dizzy's, when was that, Chuck? That would have been how many years ago? Downtown by the stadium, the first Dizzy's. 25 years ago? Okay, 25, at least 20, and this is the same rug. We bring the rug here, it's good luck. There's a lot of good memories, attached to this rug here. I had asked Chuck if I could do a series of Beatles birthday concerts. And so I was playing just my guitar solo. And then I think probably 5 years into it, I started to have my daughters. And they started to sing just a few tunes each time until it turned into concerts just with them and myself. It was our trio. And then eventually that turned into bringing in Jeff McCarrick, a bass player, a fellow I've known since junior high school. I've been playing with him music since junior high school. And then finally we brought in James Morton to add the drums. And so now it's been sort of a big production. And thankfully we've had a lot of people come to those. But when I talked to Chuck about possibly doing a residency here at Dizzy's, we thought about Thursdays. And that started a couple of months ago when Peter Pupping and myself, we kind of inaugurated these Thursdays. And we're hoping, we'll see. Let's see how it turns out. Sometimes a Thursday is a really good night for people, as opposed to coming on a weekend. And so the last month, it was with my good friend Robert Wetzel, and we played an all-classical program. And I promise you, each one's going to be very, very different. Every Thursday that I present a concert, it should be quite different than the other. The next one's going to be with cello and guitar, and that's going to just be a folk song infused concert. After that, I have plans of bringing some of my students, some of my best students, to come on this stage to play for you too, because I'm very, very proud of them. But tonight, it's the Beatles, and of course you can see that I brought a few toys with me. I'm going to start off with the most mellow instrument, which is the Baritone Guitar. It just has such a deep, rich sound. It's a nice way to begin. Then, of course, by the end, I'll take this guy out, this double neck, and I'll be playing so many instruments you're probably going to get tired of. I'm going to have synthesizers and drums and all kinds of things. But I wanted to start off with something from 1964. The Beatles, great group of people as individuals, but of course they were the best when they were together. McCartney and Lennon always said for their songwriting duo that regardless of who wrote the song, and many of the songs were written just by one of them individually, it would always be called a Lennon and McCartney song. However, those of us who are enthusiasts of the Beatles always know who actually wrote the song or who wrote more of it than the other. But it's easy for you to tell if you know their voices. Paul McCartney's voice is quite different than John Lennon's, so if you listen to any of those songs, you can bet that they were the ones that were the primary composer for the song, like Hey Jude. That's Paul McCartney all the way. But you get like Come Together, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that's John. So I'm going to start with a primarily Paul McCartney song, 1964, right after Hard Day's Night, their movie, a song called And I Love Her. He composed this song when he was 21 years old. He wrote it in his girlfriend's parents' house. That's where he was staying. And John Lennon said it was his first Yesterday song. maturity to the writing, and that's what you're going to find out when you listen to all these songs.
Red, do they write the music and the words?
Yes, it's mostly Paul's words too. In fact, I think John Lennon credits Paul with, he said that was his first Yesterday, and Yesterday is all Paul. So I'm pretty sure that everything is Paul's on that particular song. A lot of the tunes after 65, 66 are fairly individual between the composers, between John and Paul. The early songs, yes, they team taught. Love Me Do,
Yeah.
I Want to Hold Your Hand. I Saw Her Standing There. Definitely that was co-written completely. But after a while, with the pressures of touring and what they had to do, oftentimes they were on their own, and then they would get together and kind of work things out. Of course, they influenced each other. A lot of it was competition, to tell you the truth, but it was very healthy competition. Paul would write Yesterday, and then John would start writing like Day Tripper or She Loved what is it? This one. I Feel Fine. John was great at doing lick motivated kind of pieces. That's John all the way. All of those kind of tunes. So next, wow, I've got 3 Paul McCartney tunes to start with, but don't worry, John gets. It's just that it works the best on the baritone. So the next one, 1966. First rock and roll record to have just strings only. They had strings before in the background, but this is just strings, no other instruments, no guitars, and voice. Paul singing double-tracked a tune called Eleanor Rigby. I might play around for a little while. Let's see. it's sort of the gateway to fingerstyle guitar, as opposed to just playing with a pick. You have to play with your fingers when you play this particular piece. And what's so interesting about this song is most of us didn't know that much about the background until Paul McCartney actually told everybody during his concert tours starting about 15 to 20 years ago. I mean, there's nothing written about it except when he actually mentioned it in concert, and it's incredible. And it brings into, when you think about the lyrics that he produced and the music in the background behind it, it just makes it that much more enjoyable. So, Blackbird, as you know, has it's one guitar on the White Album and Paul. And Paul just, yeah, this chord. But where he got the music or the guitar part is that he and George was, oh, I forgot to tell you about the introduction to And I Love Her. This is important. I know I'm backtracking. I'll probably do this a lot tonight. Sorry. I'm 68. Anyway, yeah, that happens more often now. But remember this? Probably the one thing, as soon as you hear it, you know what song it is. George did that. George wrote that. Paul said, George said, why don't you have a little lick or an intro to introduce the song? And Paul said, great. Well, what do you think I should do? And he said, so that one is a contribution from George. They were influencing each other quite a bit. So here's George again, kind of getting into classical guitar. In 1964-65, he acquired a Jose Ramirez classical guitar. I mean, this is a top-notch classical instrument from Spain, and he played it on Hard Day's Night Movie, on this song, on And I Love Her. But he showed Paul some pieces that he had learned of Johann Sebastian Bach. He actually apologized for how he was playing it, but he played it pretty well. Anyway, he said, yeah, I know it's not like that, but this is what it sounded like to me when I did it. These intervals, here's your music theory lesson for the day. Sorry, but I can't help but put that in, but it makes a difference in hearing this. These intervals, to be able to call an interval by the distance between them. And we use numbers, 1 all the way to 13. Those are tenths. So it's 10 notes to get to those two, for those two. And so these are all tenths. Very pleasing. They suggest chords. So if I play this, I'm playing a G chord. This, I'm playing this chord. This, back to a G chord. This chord, C chord. D chord. This chord, E minor. And it just keeps on going like that. So with two notes, there's all this other harmony that's sort of implied. You put those ideas into the hands of someone like McCartney. He comes up with not all of them, and this is what he does to get from 1/10 to the other. This guy has never studied music formally, ever, but what an ear. He's doing intervals that Bach does, because he can hear it, he knows what it sounds like, and it's so logical. So if we're playing chords, C chord, too. Okay, so that's music. That's just him figuring how to create a song. The lyrics, the song is called Blackbird. The Beatles were pretty apolitical during their time as Beatles. John always wanted to say something, but I think Paul kind of calmed him down. Obviously, when the Beatles broke up, John was an activist. That's always what he wanted to do. But during the time of the Beatles, they wanted to kind of veil things. They still wanted to say things. So it's 1968. All the Beatles are in Marrakesh in India with the Maharaj Yogi. They spent some time in India. George and John stayed the longest. Ringo stayed 10 days. Paul stayed about 2 months. And George and John stayed about 4 months, stayed a little bit longer. During that time, he wrote this song. And what he said was he was watching and looking, all of them were looking at what was going on in the United States in the 60s, particularly in 1968. And he said that he composed a song making a comment about the civil rights movement in the United States. Now, the song is called Blackbird. And in England, and this is not a pejorative word, when guys would look at girls, they would call them birds. Just like in the States, we used to say, I remember in high school, we'd say chick. You know, it wasn't to be derogatory, but that's what they called. So Blackbird really was him talking about a black girl and her plight during the civil rights movement. So the lyrics, blackbird singing in the dead of night, take those broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these sunken eyes and learn to see. You know, if you listen to the lyrics, they're powerful, incredible. So putting those two elements together, that's why you got to call the guy. He's an artist. He's a true genius. So here it is. Now, in order for me to play it properly, I have done versions of it where I play the melody and the accompaniment at the same time, but it's nice for you to hear the entire accompaniment as he played it and sang it, and then I'm going to put the vocal part in by using a little device here called a loop station, so I can play the entire part. It's not pre-recorded, so you get to see it live. I don't have anything pre-recorded tonight, but I do have a device that will record anything I put into it live, like this. Melody, which is such a beautiful melody. Nope. I let my daughters do that. So next, we go from the biggest, or the largest instrument that I have, and the deepest sounding. I'm going to go directly to the ukulele. Right to that. And I know that several of you, if you've come to our concert, you have heard me play these, but I couldn't play a Beatles concert without at least including these two ukulele tunes that are inspired by the playing of Jake Shimabukuro, who comes from Oahu, and that's where I lived. I lived in Oahu for about 10 years, and my dad was in the Navy, and so we were stationed in Pearl Harbor. And actually, one of the first stringed instruments that I played a little bit of guitar because my dad was a guitarist as well, but I got pretty serious about playing the ukulele. And when introduced to the ukulele, Mrs. Sakai, I remember her completely, brought these instruments out, and we all got excited. We said, "Oh, ukuleles, ukes." She goes, "No," and we went, "We know what that is." She goes, "No. Where do we live?" And we said, "Hawaii." And she goes, "No, we live in Hawaii." We had to even pronounce that correctly, too. And then she said, "The name of this instrument, and you're not going to touch one until you pronounce it correctly in the Hawaiian way, and that's ukulele. Ukulele. So an uku is like a flea or a louse. And actually the name it basically is like a jumping flea. A jumping flea. And the Portuguese, when they brought instruments over, stringed instruments, a little bit different than a guitar, smaller, in the hands of the Hawaiians, they turned it into this instrument. Now, there are all kinds of different ukuleles. They're baritone ukes, which are literally like a guitar. And then this one's a tenor or concert ukulele, which is kind of mid-range. And then the ones that you usually get, for a souvenir, that's a soprano ukulele. And let me tell you, when you see some of the stuff that I have to play with you can't do it on one of those. It's like a toy. It's actually too small. It's like this tiny. It's a good one to start for kids, but pretty hard to manage. So this is the perfect size. So in my day, when the ukulele player who was the most important ukulele player was called Oto-san. He was of Japanese heritage, and he was incredible. He played these beautiful ukulele pieces. I remember the most important one was Hawaii 5-0. I remember I tried to learn that. I learned that, Hawaii 5-0. And then sort of fell into obscurity. After that, the ukulele was not that interesting to most people except when Tiny Tim was playing. That was it. In the 60s, guess what was king? Yeah. So I learned very quickly, ukulele's cool, it's a nice instrument, but if you play this, you'll get much more attention. So I gravitated toward the guitar. Plus, my dad played the guitar. But all of a sudden comes this player, Jake Shimabukuro, and he brings ukulele back, and huge, too. The first time I was introduced to Jake, one of my students said, "Professor Benedetti, I know you like the Benedettis." Yes, I do like the Benedettis. "You like the Beatles?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, have you ever heard this guy play While My Guitar Gently Weeps on the ukulele?" I said, "Who?" And he said, "This guy's name is Jake. Go ahead and check him out on YouTube." And I went, and of course, the first thing you see is a million hits. That's pretty popular. And then I turned it on. He's in his backyard just playing it. This is the beginning of his fame. And it made him famous, that particular arrangement. Then I just went, whoa, I've got to learn that. So I took the ukulele that I had, not a good one. So the next time we went to Hawaii, I went into an ukulele shop, looked over my shoulder to see if my wife would approve. And she did. She said, "You want one of those, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I need something that I can plug in." And she said, "Why don't you get it?" I said, "Really?" Because she has to put up with all these instruments I have in the closet. And she said, "Why don't you get it?" And I did. And it was this ukulele, this simple ukulele, not an expensive one. And then I went ahead and learned primarily Jake's version. I put a few of the things on my own. And so what I'm going to play for you is not only that one, because that's a great arrangement, While My Ukulele Gently Weeps, but also finally a John song, beautiful song called In My Life. And the lyrics in My Life, he started the song by, he was reminiscing. And he just started to mention all these places where he had been. And then it turned around because he says, no, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the people and what they mean to me as opposed to the places I've been. Because he did mention Penny Lane, Strawberry Field. He mentioned all those places, but took that out of the song and instead made a much more heartfelt song to his friends and the people he said that he loved. It is. I'm going to learn some classical pieces on it too. I've been doing some Bach as well on it. Okay, time for the regular guitar before I get to the double neck. So, what can we do on this guitar? By the way, these two instruments, the baritone and this one, were made by my former student, Len Laviolette. And most people think when I say student, it must have been a really young person who built this. How could they do that? But no, he's a retired person, and he came into my class probably about 20 years ago. It was my classical guitar, no, longer than that, 30 years ago. Classical guitar 1. And of course, every semester, at the beginning of the semester, it's really interesting to walk into a class, you don't know who anybody is, you step up, you can tell they're sizing you up too, and you're looking, to see what you have in the class, and there was Len sitting right in the front, right there, and he was like this, he was all ready to go. He had a footstool, he had his guitar, and I couldn't help but notice him, and I said, wow, and then I went, that's a really cool guitar you got there. He goes, thanks, I made it. I said, wow, that's fantastic. Before I even said fantastic, he said, do you want to buy it? Wow, he hit me so quick. So he was already ready to be an entrepreneur. So this guitar here is number 91. This is 91. Whoa. And I purchased his number 1. I purchased that guitar from him because I got home and I played it and I liked it. I didn't need another guitar. I didn't. And so it was even hard for me. But I told my wife, I said, I'd like to support him. I would like, because he wants to become a builder. He really wants to make a business out of this. And I said, I'd like to be his first customer. And let's just see what happens. And you know what? He's on guitar 350 now. He's very prolific. And he will make it custom as any way that you want it. If you want it. And it's interesting because, actually, I didn't tell him this, but he kind of did it for me. The neck is a little bit thicker here, and then it gets really, really thin up here. My classical guitars tend to be about the same, but since this is a cutaway, and I told him, I said, I don't need another classical guitar. I've got really nice concert guitars. I want something that's a hybrid. So give me one with a cutaway. Give me one that's got a pickup so that I can play with a band, but still has that nylon string feel and touch. And that's what he built. And I have probably 6 of these. No, but they're all different. They are. Each one's completely different than the rest. And they are. You know that. Okay. You can obviously tell how many times I've had to defend myself. But, so this guitar, standard guitar, I use it, it's my gig guitar. I probably use it more than I use my concert guitars because it's just so reliable and I like the sound of it. Now, because it can be plugged in, I can do any of these things that I did with the baritone guitar, which is to use the loop station. So, let's see what would be a good introduction to this particular guitar. I didn't come up with a set list, but I have so many Beatles songs, I just come up with this. What do you think about this? Here comes the song. Yeah. Let's do that. No. I got an idea. Let's do another John Lennon because we haven't done enough John Lennon. Here's a song called Girl, Girl. This is from around 1966, 67. They put this on the Rubber Soul album, so it's actually closer to 66. And you know what's interesting about this tune is that it kind of sounds like a folk song. When it goes... See where it goes. I kind of have an idea. and I've done it before, but I want to maybe come up with something different this time. Okay. Fool on the Hill. This is a favorite of mine. I use it in theory class all the time. And I use it for this. When you modulate, when you go from one key to another, there's a certain way that you can do it. You can either be very smooth at it or just very abrupt. And it doesn't matter which one that you want to use. If you're the composer, you make the choice. But in my classes, we learn smooth voice leading and how someone like Johann Sebastian Bach would do that. What that means is you go from one note, you just change one note, and each one changes by one note, so it's very smooth. Wait a minute, what was I going to do again? Oh yeah, voice leading. What song was I going to do?
Fool on the Hill.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Fool on the Hill, it modulates, it goes from one key to another, but it does what Paul McCartney likes to do a lot. And that is that instead of going to what we call like the relative major, the relative minor, he goes to the parallel major or minor. So that means I'm not going to apologize. This theory lesson is good. So if I'm in C major, the relative minor is A minor. So I can go to that key and it sounds, in fact, that's exactly what John did in the reverse. So, but what Paul likes to do is he likes to be in a major key, and then he takes that same tonic note, like G, and he turns it into G minor. And G minor is quite different than G major, major and minor. Very different key signatures. So you'll hear him going like this. Let's see. Exactly like they are in the song. The chords, the melody, doubled, the bass comes in, and then finally the recorder at the end. this guitar is made by Len Laviolette. And the next guitar is made by a man named Andy Powers. Andy is quite the craftsman. This instrument is only one of 2 guitars that exist in the world by Andy. I'm not going to say that they're only double neck guitars, because they're not. But they are fairly unique. So my very, very good friend, Peter Sprague, who I've known for ages, 50 years or so, we were playing concerts and we were bringing so many guitars. It looks like it hasn't changed, but we were lamenting that we had to haul all these different instruments around. And wouldn't it be nice if we could just kind of hold on to one guitar and switch back and forth? And I said, yeah, that would be great, but what are you going to do, have someone make one? That's what he did. He went to Andy, who's made instruments for him before, and they got to designing this instrument. So Peter's is a prototype. It's the first one. Looks very much like this because they came up with a very unique and ergonomic design. You have to consider that when we have 2 necks, they can't be in line like this because you're going to hit the other one while you're playing. So this one has to be out a little bit further. The bridge has to be higher in order to support that. There's a lot of tension on this soundboard here. So that part has to be engineered as well. Peter's is a nylon string top. We both love playing nylon strings. That's kind of our favorite type of guitar and string to play. But his on the bottom is an electric guitar. So he has magnetic pickups like a standard electric guitar, jazz guitar. And when I told Peter, I said, wow, that sure would be fun to have one, And so I asked him because I wasn't sure if maybe he would want to be the only guy on the block, to have one of these. But if you know Peter Sprague, he totally went, hey man, yeah, you go get it, order it. So I did. Again, I had to ask my wife. And she was fine with it. She's always said, go for it. And I did, but I told Andy, for me, I'd like to have just a steel string and not an electric guitar. Just make it a steel string guitar, so I've got that sound, so it's different when I switch and very noticeable. So that's what he did with this instrument. So this is more of a purely acoustic instrument as opposed to an electric, half electric and half acoustic. Now, what's also interesting about this is that it will run a synthesizer. So not only can I record and play additional parts that are live, but I can also trigger synthesized sounds. Well, why don't I just show you what it'll do? Okay, so if we're going to do Norwegian Wood, I can do little sitar sounds, and it sounds better when I add another sound to it because then it sounds more convincing. But strings, it's really nice to be able to get the strings in there. It's amazing. And so this instrument's capable of doing a lot of things at the same time, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have strings in there, I'm going to have a little bit of bass, and then of course I can change all the sounds over here too. And so now we kind of move to the part of the concert where I'm kind of utilizing everything that I have here, all the toys, and having a blast because I have to do something with this to prove, to prove that it is a unique instrument and that I deserve it. Oops. No, really, if you know my wife, my wife and I have known each other since high school. We're high school sweethearts. Her name is Amy, and I met her when she was 15 and I was 16. Oh. And that's what really scared me when my girls were that age. Because the boyfriends or the husbands that they were with, they met them at that age too. But you know what? All good. Yeah, we're all doing good. We all are still married, and we have. I've got grandchildren who are beautiful, and they're starting to play music too. My Luca, my youngest son, the grandson, is playing piano, which I definitely approve of. Let's wait for the guitar. Do the piano first, and then my daughter, my youngest child, is singing, and her pitch is so good. it brings tears to my eyes when I hear her sing because she just matches everything I play. That's how my daughters were too in the beginning too. But I didn't force them to be in a band with me, honestly. That's a whole other story. So let's see here. What would be a good one? Oh, okay. Norwegian Wood. That would be good. Okay, so let's see here. All right. So now I got a lot of stuff here that I can do, and I'm going to.
Cable swap?
Pardon?
Your cable swap?
Thank you. See, that's what you need. You need someone to keep track of what you're doing. I have to actually change these cables, otherwise you're just going to hear a synthesizer and no guitar. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There you go. now time to get a little bit psychedelic. So, John Lennon, Norwegian Wood. Another John Lennon song. Strawberry Fields Forever. I think it's actually one of his best songs. It's incredibly inventive. He wrote it about a let's see what it was. It was a Salvation Army home for orphans. It was called Strawberry Field. Of course, he calls this song Strawberry Fields Forever. And he uses all kinds of, it was actually the beginning stages of the psychedelic era. It probably was the first. It came after the heels of the Summer of Love, Sgt. Pepper album, 1967, but before Magical Mystery Tour, and before their broadcast of All You Need Is Love, a song, also a John song, that they produced and did as a worldwide broadcast, the first worldwide broadcast that the Beatles ever did. And it was done by Britain, and they had, or rather, various countries all around the world, and Britain chose to have the Beatles represent them. And so the Beatles sang All You Need Is Love. So shortly after that, all of a sudden you see on Ed Sullivan, the Beatles, and they're putting paint and all kinds of weird stuff on this piano with Strawberry Fields Forever. And they lost some fans during that time because they thought maybe they were just a little bit too out. But they were way ahead of their time. I mean, they kind of started a whole thing. So here's Strawberry Fields Forever. And let me see here. I want some real nice strings, because it'd be nice to put some strings in here. string as it comes through, so you can stop the string and sometimes it will continue going. So that's one thing that would be nice to have a little bit more control over that. But still, it's just so nice to have a complete orchestra at your fingertips. You know, this is what's fun about having these. So everyone, it looks like we're getting near the end here, and so I think what I'll play for you as a last selection is another John Lennon song. Let's represent him again, and that would be "Come Together." Come Together from Abbey Road. Let's see, I need to have some bass here. That'll work. How about this guy? And by the way, thank you so much for coming. I hope that you enjoyed the Beatles this evening. Thank you, Chuck, for letting me always do these Beatles concerts. Thank you so much, Chuck. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you,
again,
Chuck.
thank you to the musicians. Oh, that's right. So this is just kind of giving you a warm-up for the girls and I and my two very great friends, Jeff McCarrick and James Morton. We're going to be playing all McCartney, but this will include not only Beatles McCartney, but also a lot of his solo ones. And he just put out a solo album, so I know we're going to at least have one new one for you, brand new, of his. And that's on June the 26th, I believe is the date. It's a Saturday here at Dizzy's. I hope that you can come. It'll be a really good time.
Fred, you have one coming up Saturday.
Yeah, the Saturday concert I'm doing with my friend Chris Vitus. And that's going to be right here in a couple of days. And that concert is featuring the music of Jean-Luc Ponty, amazing jazz violinist. And so there, it will be Jeff McCarrick will be there as a bass player. And let's see, keyboard player is going to be, oh my gosh, why am I, I forget names. He's really good. Oh, him! Yeah, that guy. And then, of course, Chris Vitus will be playing the violin. And so we'll have, and James Morton will be playing drums, too. So we'll have a big band up here. It's going to be a little bit louder than what you're hearing tonight, but it is going to be a night of playing these arrangements, but a lot of improv between all of us. It's going to be a great concert. So I hope that you can get to that, too. Until the next time, everyone. Thank you so much again. You're welcome.